When last we spoke, it was time to tell these distributors to sharpen their pencils and give you real pricing. How far off was the pricing from reality?
We saved about $150,000.
Wow. All right, where are we at? What have I missed? When last we spoke, it was time to tell these distributors to sharpen their pencils and give you real pricing. How far off was the pricing from reality?
We saved about $150,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's been a roller coaster. So after everyone sharpened their pencils, gave me their best price, I chose a distributor. I had a relationship with the factory representative. All right. And put the financing through, and they flipped on me. It went from 100% financing to 50% financing with 20% down. I told him to kick rocks and go in somewhere else, which he was actually pretty taken aback by.
Listen, Howard, I'm not interested in the third world, okay? Now, there's too much that can go the wrong way and not much that can go our way. Now, we've had this discussion. I don't ever want to have it again, okay?
So I had those other deals still in my back pocket and reach out to them, got 100% financing, and back in the game.
Nice.
Yeah,
to interrupt, the $150,000 price disparity, was that the same distributor that started with X amount of dollars and then lowered their price $150K? We're not talking about the difference between, Cadillac and Honda here.
I would say it was almost across the board. The range was from 100 to 150. Everyone came down. I mean, I was pretty aggressive with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I did the whole thing.
It's just knowing what to do. It's not that difficult. You don't have to have the actual manufacturer's retail price versus invoice in order to buy a car. You just need to know how to talk to the people selling the car. That's all.
Yeah.
And know that they're sharp, and know that they're going to rob you either way. Wow.
Oh, of course.
Who are you guys?
Well, he's Harley Davidson, and I'm the Marlboro man.
Look like a bunch of two-bit hoods to me.
Now, does that look like the work of two-bit hoods?
Yeah, pros would have used my keys.
Yeah. So I had them on their toes from the start. I scheduled visits 30 minutes apart, so they all bumped into each other, started calling each other names. It was a lot of fun.
You had them come to your laundry and beat each other over the head with their clipboards. I fucking love it, man. I wish I would have sent a videographer there.
Yeah. So the first company I went with that, told me 20%
Hold on,
down.
I'm having too much fun. They called each other names like after the one guy left. He said, "Well, that guy's a douche nozzle," or they did it right in front of each other.
Yeah. That guy's a backstabber. He doesn't know how to install. The other guy said that guy doesn't know how to install equipment. I have to constantly fix his work. I just got a contract from one of his other clients.
Wow.
It was chaotic. Yeah.
I love the chaos. Love it. Every time. It's the same every time.
Exactly.
You must have been cracking up because I talk about that right in the course and I say, this is what you must do. And this is how it's going to unfold. I literally have them come at the same time. That's even more fun.
Yeah.
Got an open house, boys. Anybody need a pizza? Let me know. I'll order some food. Have at it.
Right.
So good. So good. All right. So what I assume that they emailed you, well, we can't do 100% financing. I assume he didn't call you on the telephone to give you the bad news.
Well, actually, I gave him a call because, with these things, you have to sign a landlord agreement.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, have the landlord agreement signed? Is that it? So we can go ahead and close up the deal. He said, well, actually, after looking over everything, you're a new operator, blah, blah, blah. We're comfortable with 50% financing, so half the project, and 20% down. I told him, do you really want to blow up this deal? I've already talked to the factory rep. He's on board. And, I'm just taken aback by it. And so this is the underwriter I'm talking to. So the underwriter says, yeah, sorry, tough luck. Well,
they all ask for 30% down up front. And God forbid you call the distributors, all of them, as a non-owner, a non-operator, as a guy who hasn't signed a lease yet. God forbid. I've heard some stories, bro, firsthand. And I don't mean on the internet. I mean, my clients tell me, I had a guy that spoke with a Nigerian accent, New Jersey, did not have his lease yet, brought me on board, and he said, yes, I called these distributors. They heard the way I talked, and they told me, you need to come with $50,000 liquid before you even consider getting into this business. And he was like, I'm an American citizen. I know more about Abraham Lincoln than you do. And they just, over the telephone, they told, and this is commonplace every day. They want the low-hanging fruit. They want to make sure that they take money from people that don't know what they're doing. And it's better if they have it. If you've got millions liquid, you're like, you're having your cocktail and you're saying, well, that's a shame we lost 300 grand. And that's precisely why they conduct themselves this. How dare I go on here and say this? They should be outside the door with pitchforks and torches. But the truth is they just want to quietly continue to do this. And the thought is it's 30% down, X amount, and this percentage. But you knew that if you stuck to your guns, it would happen. So next, what happened?
Okay, so that deal blows up. Call the other guys. They don't know that I've chosen anyone. I just tell them I'm going to get back with you. And I say, hey, I'm going to break a lot of hearts, but I'm going with you. Little do they know, the other deal just blew up.
Oh, yeah.
So, So they say, okay, let's go for it. 100% financing. Underwriter approves it. I get a call from the first distributor, Company A, the one I originally wanted to go with. He's upset how things went. He's calling the factory rep, and he said he doesn't get it why, how that happened. And I said, you know what? I was going to work with you, but I actually just got 100% financing from Company B. He said, you're kidding. I said, yeah. So at that time, the factory rep, shortly after, the factory rep called me personally. He said, I want to apologize for what our underwriters did. I can actually go above his head. If a peer institution is giving you 100% financing, there's no excuse for us. So they're now back in the game.
Wow.
And
don't you feel like this is all a game for them?
Oh yeah, of course.
Which it is.
Of course. But he did seem genuinely upset with the underwriter. And I will admit the underwriter, when he called me back, kind of had his tail in between his legs, just, apologize. I'm not the final decision maker. I heard from, higher ups, and this is where we're at.
Yeah.
You remember, Jack?
So I like that company perhaps a little bit better than Company B because they were my first choice. And they're going to do a little bit more just in terms of setup where I'm coming out of, less money.
Yeah.
But, that said, they did initially blow up the deal. I like the guys. I like I like the factory rep. I like the distributor. He's on it.
Yeah, but who cares?
He has hustle.
This isn't a dentist. They're not going to be sticking their hands in your mouth for the rest of your life. They're not going to raise your grandkids. This is a business deal. You're never going to see these people again until you sign another lease, get another free laundromat, and go bring them back to the table. And still, even then, hey, you're not the only guys. I'm bringing everybody in, and that's what we do again and again. In the back of your mind, you're not a Ford man. You're not a Chevy man. It's not the way that this works. So, and I know you obviously, we're on YouTube because you're saying A and B, but what's the question for me? What is going on in your gut?
Okay. All right. So I will say in my gut, I'm leaning back towards Company A only because not only have they matched Company B's terms, they've gone beyond in terms of interest rates, warranty. They've really sweetened the pot.
Okay.
The only thing that gives me hesitation is one, how things initially went with the underwriter. And if they're all in cahoots, it may speak to a certain company culture.
Yeah.
The second thing is, it's a little bit more money than I'm spending overall with company A, but I'm thinking I'm getting more bang for my buck, but I may not be. This is a question for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about bulkheads and installing boilers. Company A, I'm spending a little bit more, but they're building the bulkheads and they're installing my new hot water boilers.
Okay.
Company B, they're not putting that money up, so I'm going to have to come up with cash out of pocket. So,
okay. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
You think right now in this very moment that company A, because they're willing to do ancillary items for you, that they should be charging more for it. You're wrong. You can have your cake and eat it too right now. Remember this. Company A can do all of that stuff, and they can help you with all of the ancillary items and installing your boiler. And God knows, when I look at bulkheads, which is the walls between the washers, they're just made of steel, and they're properly powder coated so they don't rust, and they hold up the water and the electric. There's nothing to them. Any HVAC guy can also come in. This is a trick most people don't use. I used my HVAC guy to bend up the sliders that go on top of them. And I've seen Joe makes them out of stainless steel, but they don't have to be very expensive. They're going to last forever. You just use corrugated tin, basically, which also will not rust. So think about how simple those things are. Now, what you don't know is what they really cost, and therein lies the rub. You could have any contractor, right? You could have any contractor come and build them, but that's where their pudding comes in. Jordan, they want to charge you ridiculous amounts for these items because you don't know what they're worth. Again, you go to dental school, you spend 10 years, you become a dentist, you hang a shingle, and now some dude comes in and sells you a spit sink that's as big as your hat, and it costs $5,000. Why? Because it's medical equipment. It's a sink. You know, you have to have that mentality like, wait a minute, I'm trying to make money here, not just be a dentist. You want to get your store open, sure. Now, me, obviously, the Willifords, they're doing everything from scratch themselves, and I always did too. You don't have to do that. You have to realize that they are giving you the best deal because otherwise they wouldn't have a deal. And the pricing for everything they're doing needs to be diminished. And you can even say, why are you charging me for delivery? You buy a washer from Lowe's or Home Depot, they don't say, well, we have to charge you for what it costs us to get the washer to our facility. They give you a choice if you want to give them $49 to deliver it to your facility, your house, your basement, right? And you can even say, well, I don't want to pay for delivery, but it's not going to be a delivery or a documentation fee like you see in cars. Just once you know this is all real. And right now, people listening on YouTube are like, well, maybe that'll work for you, but it didn't work for me. It's because you didn't know how to ask. There's a guy that got his laundromat for free. He's got a couple of videos out there that are basically just crying about the process because the first distributor said, well, you're going to have to give us 20%. Well, it started at 30 and he ended up paying 15. But because he was fearful that he wouldn't get any equipment at all. You always do. So my answer to you, and I believe this is the question you're asking, should you give them a little bit more money because they're offering you the ancillary stuff and rolling it into the loan? No. You'll even see distributors that'll give you $20,000 in cash. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Hey, we're going to let you do that work. So keep that. You don't know that happens? It does. It does. They can flip the money back to you. You don't need to start some fake LLC or anything else. They'll say, well, we're going to give you this ancillary money so that you can do the install, so that you can do the additional work. And what are you going to do then? You're going to do the work yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that makes a lot of sense because, like I said, I don't know how much these things cost, how much a bulkhead typically is, but it doesn't seem like it's too complicated. I'm perhaps overestimating how much value they're providing.
Correct. Keep that in mind. Yeah. When you're falling asleep every night, spinning like a spit, out of control, can't stop thinking about what you need to do the next day, that's A, a good thing, but B, control your thoughts, understand you need to calm your mind, go to sleep, because tomorrow's another day. These guys aren't thinking that way. They're just thinking, here's another guy that we can end up with. The pudding for them is always it's the line item stuff. It's not the cost of the equipment. We've already shaved that by 150 grand just by knowing what to say. And sadly, bringing them back to the table. They either do this deal or they don't. They want to sell you the equipment. So go back on that. Unfortunately, you have to play the same game. Hey, I've got other distributors, and now your pricing for the bulkheads and the boiler has allowed me to go back to the table with others and find out. And they all know each other. It's really telling when they say, oh, that guy's a lowlife and he's a scumbag, because that really diminishes your thinking, not of the other guy, but of them. Like, why are you not so resourceful and good at your job that you need to say that about others? It's not good.
Yeah. Okay, that's super helpful. So I'm going to put the brakes on because I have the financing in place from both companies. I guess I'm going to keep pushing it even at this stage. I was going to stop with the back and forth, but it sounds like it's going to be worth my while to do so.
Well, here's another thing. Time is always on your side. I know you're in a rush and a hurry to get this place 100% retooled, earning the serious money that's coming your way. But in the interim, time is on your side, not theirs. They have everything in place. It's not going to go anywhere. You have 0%. You have no money out of pocket. That's not going to change. You saw them say, well, maybe we can squeeze this guy through the underwriter and change things. Send in the bad cop. It's like, no, not going to do that. Have a nice day. Dude, it works every time it's tried. So now realize sometimes all you need to do is ignore them for a couple of days. So we send out a letter of intent. And my clients are always very excited. Well, hey, the LOI is expiring. The date on the LOI is meaningless. You just kind of put a date on it. So I get a text from the client, hey, our LOI expired today. So they didn't respond. They got it. They have it. They know what we are seriously willing and ready to do. We do nothing. You don't call and say, gee whiz, our LOI expired. What happened? Because now they have the upper hand suddenly. This analogy, I don't know if it hits or miss. You send the note to the front of the class to the cute redheaded girl. Will you go to prom with me? She opens it up and then puts it in her backpack. A week later, you don't send another note and say, hey, did you get my note? You watched her open it. Yeah. She ain't interested. Move on. When you are in discussions and negotiations with these guys, if they do something untoward or something you don't like, or they try to charge you too much money like they have, just ignore them. And now the email that comes back in 2 or 3 days, it says, hey, what happened? Did we drop the ball? That indicates they were in the Monday meeting and everybody said, well, what happened with Jordan? Where are we at with this big equipment sale? Or small. And that's the thinking. Well, it's not a 3 million square foot store. It's not a big deal. Yeah, it is. Death by 1,000 cuts. If they're able to fill 10, 15 stores a year, smaller stores, that's far better for them, especially when nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. So that waiting, which is the hardest part, is also how we get what we want. That leverage, that time factor is always on our side. So if you don't like what they say, write, email, text, ignore. And then when they write back, now what's your response? It's far better than they send something you don't like and the prices are too high and you write back the same minute because you're in a hurry. You say, well, let me think about it. Or, gee whiz, this is too much. How about 3 days later when they say, hey, did you get our last correspondence? Are you in Tahiti? And you say, oh, yeah, I got it. I just thought you were kidding. So I'm moving in another direction. Ooh. That, right? You're laughing, but you're also one of the few that's really good at sort of listening to what I say in this process. I don't negotiate with distributors for any clients because it wouldn't make sense. I get emails every day. Hey, if I hire you, will you handle the distributor stuff? Absolutely. By handling you, by allowing you to understand the way it works. Because the last thing you want is some guy, they all know me. The last thing you want is some dude dealing with the distributor on your behalf because they're kind of like, well, Jordan's wishy-washy. You may be, but you don't need to act that way. You're about to jump in the deep end, own a business, be dealing with cash. human beings, your contract attendants, all of it. And the very smallest part is the people supposed to be on your side. So the distributors are easy. I always talk about car sales. If you absolutely know what the price is, you can get it for 500 over. That's why I love auctions, because you never know what's going to happen. I could tell you some stories about the auctions I go to. I just intimidate everybody, and I always win the auction. So, does that answer in toto what the query is, or no? Okay.
Yeah, totally does. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that, because I was kind of, holding the trigger, waiting to pull, but like you said, right now the ball's in my court, so I'm going to take my time. Financing it's in place. So now's the time, I think, to play hardball.
Look,
and it's so funny.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like there was a moment where I was a little fearful a couple of weeks ago, especially after that first deal blew up. What am I going to do? And I saw those videos that you mentioned, and I just had to just put my head back in the space of being in the driver's seat. But yeah, it's really helpful info.
I'll be frank, I've been there. The biggest part of a negotiation is feelings, right? You hire a professional negotiator, it's so very rare, because most of us negotiate our entire lives for ourselves. If you think every day you don't negotiate 15, 20, 100 items, you're wrong. Whether you have a JOB or you're just living your life. Are you going to let a little old lady in front of you in traffic? Are you going to allow someone to talk to you in a certain way? Everything's a negotiation. But when it comes down to things that we want, we're always willing to lose. What do I mean? We're willing to give too much. Hey, I really want that thing. I'll pay a little more. I have friends who tell me, hey, I appreciate friends, not clients. I know you're my friend, Jordan, but people that I talk to on a weekly basis that say, I won't negotiate when I buy a car or a house. I just can't stand it. So they hate negotiating so much. It puts this pit in their stomach, and so they just decide, well, I'll just give them what they want. Because, and I'm not talking about people that have a lot of money. Sometimes that is the case. But a $10,000 mistake or a $150,000 error in judgment, take the moment to say, this is, even if it's not what you do, someone can give you the words and say, go say this, and this will be the outcome. And I love hearing that. It was like last week on a live where the guy says, you saved me $200,000 with the sharpen your pencil thing. There it is.
Yeah, it works. Definitely works.
I know.
Okay, yeah, well, so going back at it, so I'm going to hang tight for a few days and see where it goes, but we're over the main hurdle.
And send me a text when they actually hit you up with an email, and it's going to be, hey, where are we at with this? Because they, although it's not as guttural for them, meaning everybody from the CEO on down to your salesman and the underwriter who's even below that and the janitor that sweeps the floors in the factory, they aren't as concerned about this deal as you are. Sure, they want it, but it's not going to make or break them, especially since you've dwindled the profit. They're still making good money, but they're not, I mean, $150,000, can you imagine, for the same
Yeah.
That's Ferrari prices for a Honda, and they get away with it. They do it over and over. The preponderance of people that do this business, dude, they go buy a laundromat from someone. They're out of pocket hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then they go to the landlord and negotiate a lease, and they're robbed in the future. Then they bring the distributors in, and they just crack their knuckles. And the distributors know. They're like, oh, I know who used to run this place. We sold him his equipment. And now we're going to sell this couple their equipment. And the people can't help themselves. They have diarrhea of the brain. We're real estate agents. We own millions of square feet, and they want to impress everybody and talk about their liquidity. And what happens? They get screwed.
Oh, yeah.
Again.
I'm pretty sure this hot water heater's got a few more good years left in it.